Hey guys, I'm Ross Chastain, NASCAR driver in the Xfinity Series for the number 10 car at Colleague Racing. Next year, I'll be piloting the number 42 NASCAR Cup Series Chevy Camaro for Chip Ganassi Racing. As crazy as that sounds for me to say it out loud. We announced that about a month ago, so still seems surreal, but we've got 3 more races to continue our fight for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship this year in 2020. And we have some questions. So I'm going to answer those. I wrote them down, piece of paper. Nice. Deposit slip. Wish I was depositing money instead of writing questions down on it. But first question is, how can you tell whether or not the watermelon is crisp from the outside? And not so much do I look for a crisp watermelon as I just look for one that's ripe and doesn't have any flaws. So first thing that I do is I pick it up. It should be heavy for its size. Watermelons are 92% water, so high water content, gonna be heavy. The next thing is the stripes on it. So all watermelons have dark green and light green stripes. They should be pretty symmetrical. None of them should come to a point. They shouldn't go away from each other, change directions. They should all be pretty symmetrical left to right. And finally, flip that bad boy over, and the bottom, the belly, should be yellow, not white. If it's white, that means that something happened in the growing season, and the farmer, if it was us, we either had to pull it early because there was a lot of rain coming, or something bad was about to happen and we had to cut it off the vine a little early. That happens. The world is not perfect. Doesn't mean it's a bad watermelon, it just means it's not quite ripe. So look for the yellow belly, not the white. So next question, what are your expectations for next season? I don't know. Next season is probably going to be the most, well, it's definitely going to be the most challenging year of my life. Professionally, definitely professionally. On track, it's the Cup Series. These guys are the best, and I really don't know how to put into words what it's like. I've competed in the Cup Series, but always towards the back, and I've watched these guys race. And I've had my own race going on. Corey LaJoie and I have raced harder, in my opinion, than almost anybody. But that was for 32nd place. And now with the 42 car, the potential is endless. We've got the potential to do a lot of things. So I've got things in my head that I want to accomplish. But right off the bat is just take what the car will give me. My expectations are to, just try to, I expect myself to try to be the best I can be in that race car. Do what Kurt Busch does, right? Maximize days. That's, I feel like, one of his strong suits. I mean, he's a heck of a race car driver, but everybody is in the Cup Series. His ability to finish strong is something I need to focus on. So maybe start with top 15s and work towards top 10s. That would be great. What was it like racing Hamlin at Darlington? So those that didn't catch it, the last Xfinity race at Darlington in 2020, Denny Hamlin and I had a heck of a battle. Down the stretch to the end, I had the lead, I had clean air, and Denny was clearly faster. And I just went wherever I thought I could to defend and make lap time without letting him exploit my weaknesses. We ended up getting together. He pulled a slide job on me in a turn 3 coming to the white, and I just ran right in the back of him. I hit the fence right as he we both hit the wall, and then I was trying to turn underneath him, and I just miscalculated it a little bit. I got too close to the wall on entry for what kind of tire grip we had, which was almost zero. It felt like ice out there, and Brandon Jones won. So I wouldn't change how hard I raced him, even though the hard racing let Brandon catch up. But I wanted, and most of y'all might know this, I would rather go down swinging, fighting for a win, coming to the white flag, than play it safe and safely finish second. I was willing to risk it all. And to win at Darlington on the Southern 500 weekend, 2 years after I got my first opportunity in a fast car at Darlington and also crashed, but at least this time we still finished second. It was a humbling day and a humbling end to that race, but once I was able to go back and watch it and think back through it, I'm proud of the fight of the 10 car. And for Denny, he was just another driver. Honestly, I didn't think about who he was until after the race. So, what am I looking forward to the most about piloting the 42? Just the opportunity. Like I said a minute ago, the potential is just absolutely incredible. I'm driving Chip Ganassi's 42 car. It's been a staple in this sport for 30 years, I guess, or 20 years, I guess. The 42's been around longer, and just the history of that car, the drivers that have driven it. But all that aside, the people. It's the people at CGR. I've known them now for the better part of over 2 years, and we've always just been trying to figure out how we're going to work together, and finally it's all came together. So just getting to dig in and go fight with the people that I've gotten to know over the years, Chip included. Who gave me the idea of smashing the watermelon? So a little backstory for those that don't know. The Chastain family has been farming for a long time, and specifically watermelons for the last 8 generations. So 8 generations in a row we farmed watermelons, every Chastain has. You back up from that, and there's 12 total generations of farmers going back a long time ago. And so I always wanted to bring agriculture to the track. I wanted to promote my family's livelihood. I'll be honest, a watermelon sold, no matter whose watermelon it is, can only help my family. And selfishly, I wanted to do that. So I always wanted to incorporate that. But also, who doesn't like watermelons? I mean, I know some people don't like eating them, but how can you not look at a watermelon? It's a huge fruit or vegetable. Even the experts can't tell me which one it technically is. I call it a fruit because it's sweet, but I'm petty, so. But the idea of smashing it actually came in the media center after our first win in Las Vegas in 2018. I had carried it in there, and I sat it on this glass desk I was sitting at doing my post-race media availability back when we could do them in person and not on Zoom. And it was bending the glass. It was a big watermelon. We had picked out a big one. And so the moderator actually asked me to take it off the glass because she was afraid it was going to break it. And so I did. And then one of the reporters asked, hey, what are you going to do with that thing? And I was like, I don't know, probably smash it open and eat it. And they're like, oh, can we film it? So we got the idea to take it out to the front stretch. I stood up on the safer barrier. Granted, this is like 2 or 3 hours after the race is over. It's almost dark in Vegas, and here we are smashing a watermelon on the start-finish line. And that's how the smashing tradition was born, and now we try to have one ready. So I carry one in every week, and a lot of times we leave the track either eating it with the crew after the race, or it gets put in the fridge and carried to the next race. And we have to throw it away, because we let it go too long without eating it, unfortunately, because we haven't won at all this year. So that stinks. But yeah, media member, and I am blank on who it was. That whole day and weekend is a blur because so much happened in our first NASCAR National Series win. A lot of good stuff happened. So next question is, how did you get into racing, and how did you transfer from a watermelon farmer to a race car driver? So my dad got me into racing. He did some hobby racing before I was born, and a little bit when I was young. I remember riding in his Chevy pickup into the racetrack. Our home track, 417 Speedway, had an infield pit area at the time. They had an inside pit wall, so all the pitting was inside, and no kids were allowed in the infield. But he would sneak me in. I would lay down on the bench seat in the 2-door Chevy pickup, and it was just him, and he'd go unload his race truck. His buddies would be there racing as well. They'd all help each other. One was my dad's best friend, Dennis Rockenhouse, who I ended up driving that race truck once I was 12. The first race car I ever drove was my dad's friend, Dennis Rockenhouse, and he still kept his truck. But I remember being in the infield with just my dad, and once he would start racing, I'd crawl up on the toolbox and watch the race. And then, I guess the track had to know. Like, those guys they had to know I was there. I mean, they had to see me. But as long as I stayed in the truck, no one ever said anything. And then I got into that same class. They had a kid class, and Mark Martin brought his son Matt down to race at our track. It was maybe Charlotte County Speedway at the time, or Punta Gorda Speedway, but it went through a lot of name changes and ownership groups. But it's now 417 Speedway, and I just remember Matt won the Fast Kid race in the Gatorade-sponsored truck, and they threw Gatorade all over him, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and I wanted to be like Matt. And so my dad asked me if I wanted to try it, and so the next race, a few weeks later, we were there with Dennis's Crown Air truck. We put a number 13 on it because that was my dad's number, and I raced. I did terrible. I crashed. We bent the bumper out after I hit the wall, and we got back out on track, and I finished the race. And my radio, we were allowed to have radios, was a Nextel walkie-talkie with a Nextel in my pocket. I had a 2-piece G-Force suit, and the wired earpiece ran up into my ear, and my dad would beep in, and then I'd hear the beep beep, and he'd say clear, and then outside, or they're wrecking, or green flag, or whatever. So I wouldn't trade that for the world. We just kind of had fun with it for years before we decided to look at NASCAR and try to take it serious. And I don't think I've ever switched from a watermelon farmer to a full race car driver. I will farm one day again. Right now I'm putting all my effort into this racing and just being here in the greater Charlotte area, right? Mooresville is Race City, USA. You have to be here as a race car driver. You have to be able to go from shop to shop when opportunities come up, and plus traveling to races from South Florida it's a long ways. It's 6 hours just to get out of Florida from Fort Myers. So next question is, what was your reaction when you were told that you'd be driving the 42 next year? Well, Chip Ganassi called me, and I think our whole phone call, when I went back and looked at it, was 2 minutes. And that was, that was it. When Chip calls, you got to be on your game. He's got a lot going on. He's got a lot of racing and in his life, and a lot of race teams, a lot of people to manage. And so he called, said, hey, we talked about a little bit about, he asked about the farm, talked a little bit about the weather, and he said, hey, I want you to drive this 42 car. And I said, okay. After I paused for what seemed like an hour, I just was like silent, and I said, okay, Chip, I want to drive your car. And we got all the details worked out. He told me to call the shop, go down there, get it all worked out. And so we did. So I was a bit silenced by the question asked. Well, for those that know me, I know I can ramble, as we're now getting close to the 13-minute mark of this YouTube Q&A. So I'm glad that Chip was the one that made the call, though. That was important. That's his 42 car, and he made the call, so that was awesome. What kind of advice would you give someone looking to further a career in motorsports? Yeah, you got to be ready to grind. You got to be ready to fight. Just like any business, though, a lot of stuff's going to go wrong, and a lot of stuff's going to go right. But you have to be where you want. You have to move to where you want to be. So for me, at 18 years old, it was making the move from South Florida up to Mooresville, and I lived in the race shop at Bobby Dodder's for my whole first year. I was driving for Bobby, and he had an apartment upstairs, and there's been a lot of people over the years that Bobby has let live there, and I was just one of them. But no air condition for the apartment, no heat for the apartment. I got whatever came out of the race shop. There was a hole cut in the drywall, and basically I would use a box fan to either pull cold air in or pull the heat in. But in the winter, when I first moved up there, it was January. Granted, I'm from South Florida. It was cold, okay? At one point, I turned the oven on and pointed the box fan into the oven and just let the hot air circulate that way. I had some space heaters and stuff, and I was just curled up on the couch thinking, what am I doing? Because at that point, I hadn't raced but only 5 races that previous year in 2011, and that was going into the 2012 season. So move to where you need to be, move to where the job you want is at, and just grind it out. Go to the races. If you're starting out and you're still at home, go to your local races and ask how you can help. Ask somebody, can you help prep tires? Can you help wipe the car down? Can you help push the car, in and out of the trailer? Can you go get food for the crew? Like, what can you do to be there, be relevant, start meeting people? I know it's tough in these COVID times, but we're still racing, and being at the track is should be at the top, I think, personally, of anybody's priority list. A few more. Who was your favorite NASCAR driver as a kid? Jeff Gordon, without a doubt. He had the rainbow car, the DuPont car. He was winning races. I was born in 92. So by the time I was old enough to really know what was going on and watch NASCAR, he was the guy winning all the races. So I liked his car, and I liked him. What is your favorite track to drive? Bristol. Without a doubt, Bristol. Even going and watching a race there, but getting to drive on it was the ultimate dream. I gotta be honest though, I did terrible, and it's either really good or really bad, and that's usually how Bristol goes, because it will bite you in a hurry. But yeah, the adrenaline rush of racing around Bristol is unlike any other track, in my opinion. How do you approach a track that you aren't very good at? Texas is one of them. We're going to Texas this weekend, and the repaves, I've been pretty open with all my race teams over the years that repaves just are not, they don't come as natural for me. So I put more work into them, because my gut feeling, or my butt sensations, as weird as that is, but as y'all have listened to race car drivers talk, we drive by the seat of our pants. On the repaves, I feel like I have 100% grip, and then all of a sudden I crash, and I don't know what happens in the middle. So feeling that slide and feeling that the moment the tire breaks loose in time to catch the race car is tough. And Texas is still a pretty new repave, especially turns 1 and 2, as flat as they are, is really tough. So how do you feel about Texas and Martinsville heading into the last races of the season? They're the ultimate challenge. Only the best 4 cars will go to Phoenix with a chance to race for this championship in the Xfinity Series. And for us, they're both huge mountains that we were about to have to climb. We survived Kansas, but I definitely didn't gain what I wanted to gain. We had good stages, but then we got into the fence in stage 3 and ended up with a 12th place finish. And that we just kind of treaded water. We didn't really lose much. We gained a few points on the cut line, but we really had potential to gain 10 more points if I just would have kept it out of the fence. So Texas, it's going to be the same thing. We need to score good stage points, and then we just need to survive. Martinsville, though, the opportunities are endless. Going to Martinsville, first time the Xfinity Series has been there in years, I feel like Kaulig Racing is poised to really thrive. We have a great road course program, and I think a lot of that is our braking, is our stopping and our going, right? So we stop well. Our brake packages are some of the best I've ever had. And also our forward drive. We get off the corners really good at road courses, and that a lot of that will, I think, apply to Martinsville. So I'm looking forward to exploiting that. The middle of the corner, I don't know yet. We'll find out. But it's the same for everybody. No Xfinity team has raced in Martinsville in years. So I've got laps in trucks. I've got some cup races there. The 500 lap cup races at Martinsville are just agonizingly painful, especially when you're fighting to stay single-digit laps down. I've been to Martinsville several times, and our team's goal was to stay less than 10 laps down. So we were able to do that, but I've cooked the brakes off the car, so stuff like that can't happen. I can't abuse them. 300 laps to give ourselves the chance to go to race at Phoenix for a championship is the goal. So we'll drive the 2-hour trip from Mooresville up to Martinsville and try to make that happen. So thank you guys for sending in your questions. I might have rambled a little bit. I kept it under 20 minutes. I think that's a win. Thank you to NASCAR's YouTube channel for asking me to do this. And check us out this weekend at Texas as we try to lock ourselves into the Final Four at Phoenix. See y'all later.